Hey guys, this is part 4 on What If Deku Had Clank. Let's rock! And this video, I did upload it, but it was, pretty bad. So I deleted that one because it was not great, so I had to. But I hope you like this video. Deku and Clank are teamed up with Achako, and Achako says, why are you not partnered up? Aren't you a duo? And Clank sighs and says, no, I am a robot. I may be sentient, but I'm technically a tool. And Deku says, don't piss him off. It'll get him riled up. And Clank says, I do not get wound up. And Deku says, oh yeah? Why are you already bickering with me already? I am not bickering with you. We are ending this. And Deku says, exactly. And looking at Achako, but you're probably the best teammate there is. I would honestly choose you. And Achako says, thank you. A little blushing on what he said. And Clank said, are you done flirting? We're not. What are you talking about? Deku was flustered. And then Clank says, alright, let's do the planning. And Achako and Deku plan out the situation, with Clank helping undermine some tactics as well. And Bakugo says, tired of waiting. And Ida says, Bakugo, we need to think a strategy to figure out where our enemy would hit. And Bakugo says, shut it, Four Eyes! I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna take out them with my own strength. And Ida says, but Bakugo! And while Bakugo was wandering around and trying to find Deku and Achako and Clank, Deku and Achako Clank were then using Achako's gravity to lift them up and get into a window. And Achako said, wow, that was really good. And Deku said, Clank isn't always right, but he is pretty good at thinking, just as much as I am. And Clank says, you tried to open the door with your Omni Wrench. And Deku says, I have a lockpick, which I can literally open the door. And Clank says, I think this is more efficient. And Deku says, why you? And Achako and laughs. Oh. And Deku and Clank look at her. And Achako says, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. You seem very close. And Deku says, well, it was one that helped me make my arm and fixed it with a robotic one. And Achako says, wow, so that's how you think. How did you lose it? Your arm? Then she thinks, and Deku says this. I lost it on an experiment. It was at engineering, and I accidentally pressed a button that went off on one of my gadgets. And Clank says, luckily I found some first aid kit and made some bandages, modified his right arm to good. And Achako says, oh my god, did it? And Deku says, yes, it did. But you lose some, you win some. I'm just glad that it works. And next time, I'm going to use a very, very, very protective gear next time. And Achako says, and don't always think about the progress sometimes. You need to always keep your body in check. And Deku says, Achako, I already... And Clank then says, he already knows. But then Achako said, I know, but it doesn't mean that you need to be talked about with this. You need to always keep your own body safe, no matter the risk. And Deku then looks at Achako. Achako was very sad to hear that Deku's arm was lost because of his inventions. And Achako then looks sad at it. And Suki then says, relax, I'll be more careful next time. And patting her head, saying, don't always worry about me, only worry about yourself. And Chaka says, that's a terrible advice. And Clank says, I agree, but you are a flirter. And Suki says, I ain't not. And having a little argument with Clank. But when they were arguing a bit, they hear footsteps. And both Clank and Suki are silent. And Chaka says, shh, I hear somebody. And when they were silent and hiding in the wall, they see a boy coming down. And Bakugo says, come out wherever you are, you nerd! Deku, when I find you, I'm going to make sure you die! And Chaka says, thanks, Bakugo! And Suki says, well, I think I can deal with him. And Chaka says, what? Why? And Clank says, you know it's going to be risky. And Suki says, I already know that. He's looking for me. Clank, I need your help. And Clank says, right. What do you want me to do? And Suki says this. I need you to help Ochako and get to the weapon. And Clank says, you know you're going to be in disadvantage if you do that, right? And Suki says, please, I already have enough weapons to handle him. You go now. And when Suki told them the plan, Suki then says, when I surprise him, you go now. And Bakugo says, oh, Suku, where are you? And he walks closer to where Suki is, near to the wall. And Suki pulls out his Omni wrench and says, now! And hitting Bakugo with his Omni wrench. But Bakugo blocks it with his gauntlet and says, found you! And Suki says, yikes! And dodges, gets out of the way of Bakugo's other hand. And both Ochako and Clank go to the stairs and look for the weapon. And Bakugo looks, I'll take care of those. Right now, it's me and you. And Suki says, looks like you're not the only one. Now, let's do this. Having his Omni wrench on it. And Bakugo says, you're gonna die. Suki and Bakugo were having a stare-off. And Bakugo says, well, isn't it Deku? Are you waiting to lose, you freaking nerd? Or are you gonna die? And Suki says, who says I'm gonna die? It's just your opinion. And then he slowly puts back the Omni wrench. Bakugo sees this. What the heck are you doing, Deku? And Suki says, none of your business. And Bakugo says, let's see if you can take this! And Bakugo goes for an attack with his explosion. And Suki then pulls out 2 guns out of his back and slides under Bakugo. Then Bakugo says, damn it, sly little bastard. Suki says, heads up, firing his weapons. And Bakugo dodged 2 of them, of those shots. And Bakugo says, hey, what the hell are those weapons? I've never seen them. And Suki says, they're my personal new weapon, the Lancer Rod. But relax, they're made out of non-lethal energy. And Bakugo says, you are gonna die. And Bakugo gets to Suki by running. But Suki keeps him at bay and keeping a distance from him by keeping a gunshot from a distance. And Suki says, damn, he's too fast. If it's close quarters, I can't really do anything. The Omni wrench doesn't really work much in this when walls are too close. And when Bakugo says, no matter how much of a range, I'll still get you! And then Suki then runs, and Bakugo gets angry and says, "You bastard!" and running towards him to get to him. And Suki says, "Ochako, I got Bakugo following me." And Ochako says, "Well done, but be careful." "Oh, don't worry, I'm already am." And hearing an explosion, "Bastard!" And then Clank says, "Better not do anything reckless. Please, I think reckless is going to be more his style." And Suki keeps on running. Oh man, this is going to be hell to pay. And then going off the communicator. And Ochako says, "Is he gonna?" And Clank says, "Don't worry, Bakugo don't intend to be killing him. He's just gonna hurt him really badly." Ochako says, "Figures." And Suki keeps on running and hiding from Bakugo. Bakugo is getting really pissed off on finding him in different doors. Now, this is getting old. And Suki says, "Oh man, I want to get my ass handed. Better watch out for him." Get to Chaco. And Chaco and Clank got to the bottom of the weapon, where it is. And Chaco then says, "You need to be quiet and don't let anybody know we're here." And Clank says, "I agree." And when we were keeping a low profile, they see Ida, who was thinking and monologuing to himself. If I was fighting heroes, then I'll act as a villain. Now you will face a villain, heroes." And Ochako laughs. And then Clank says, "Ochako, no! Cover your mouth real quick," making sure she be quiet for a second before Ida hears her. And Ida says, "Thought I heard someone." And Clank says, "Luckily I was here." And Ochako then puts her thumbs up and was glad that Clank saved her. But when it was due in there, Ida then says, "Maybe the heroes will be lacking on their intelligence, and they will lose and on their victory." But when he does that, another villain monologue that is really bad, Clank and Ochako says, "Clank!" And Clank says, "Sorry, it was too funny." And Ida says, "Aha! There you are, you two." And Ochako says, "No wonder you're like a human sometimes." And Clank says, "Oh, stop it." And then they have the fight. And Ida was obviously protecting the weapon, as in cannon, but both Ochako and Clank were on side directions, making it more difficult for Ida to keep it at bay. Suki was in a very quick state and says, "Whew, I think I lost him. I gotta go to Ochako and Clank to find the weapon and help them." But when he does that, Bakugo says, "Got you!" out of surprise, and Suki says, "Oh crap!" And Bakugo then goes for another hit on Suki, and Suki then gets that hit. Go! And Bakugo says, "What's the matter? Are you worried about your quirk, Deku?" And Suki says, "Yeah, pretty much." And Bakugo says, "Well, I'm tired of your stupid weapons." And Suki then gets his two Lancerot out, but when he does that, he sees Bakugo holding his grenade gauntlet. And Suki says, "Bakugo, what are you doing?" And Bakugo says, why don't you have something to defend from this? And All Might says, Bakugo, this is very dangerous. You'll kill Zuki. And Bakugo says, it's alright if he still breathes. And then pulls the clip and firing out a explosion out of his gauntlet. And Suki says, hell, and uses his shield to barely block all the damage to him. God! And getting repelled by the shock of it, grabbing on the ledge of the destroyed part of the building, and Bakugo says, and All Might says, Bakugo, that is a very dangerous thing. Even villains don't do that. And Bakugo says, it's alright. He's still breathing. And Suki then pulls himself up and says, you have nearly killed me. You know that? And Bakugo says, shut up. Now, die. And Suki gets very, very scared on what he's gonna do next. And the worst part is, he doesn't have his dual. They were destroyed by the blast from Bakugo's gauntlet explosion. And Zuki then thanks. Well, and getting out his Omni wrench and says, well, looks like close combat it is. And Bakugo says, more to my liking. Both Bakugo and Zuki come together at the same time. Zuki goes for a swing with his Omni wrench, but Bakugo uses his stun grenade and temporarily blinds Zuki and leading him into a vulnerable spot. And Bakugo says, got you! And throwing him down into the ground, and then his Omni wrench was disabled. No! And Bakugo says, what's the matter? I thought you got more tricks up your sleeve. And Suki says, can't be helped. I have to use it. Luckily, Roboticon doesn't need to be injured, but this is gonna hurt like hell. He breathes slowly, says, alright, let's go. Standing up, and Bakugo gets pissed. Thought he was gonna surrender. Now you're just pissing me off. Now die! And then Bakugo uses his explosion, and they both go head on head. And Suki says, hope Clank has that other weapon in hand. And Bakugo says, what? Hesitating, then Suki then uses One for All at 5% to not go very damaging on Bakugo, because he knows that 100% will definitely kill him. And then Suki takes the chance on that hesitation and punch him in the gut. And Bakugo then and throws up a bit and getting hit back by that 5% punch. And Suki feels the recoil. Ow, ow, ow. That one hurts. And Suki says, Clank, do it. I can't hold on much longer. And Bakugo stands up and says, sheep move, Deku. And Suki says, hurry up, Clank. And Clank says, Ruka, time is almost up. And Achako says, right, now is the time. And Clank grabs out Zuki's vacuum gun. And Ida says, huh? What is that? And Clank says, something that you're not prepared. And the vacuum gun is pulling the weapon. And Ida says, no! And trying to run from the vacuum's pull. And Ida says, this force is it's having more effect. And Achako is getting in front of the Ida and going towards the weapon with the vacuum behind it. Now, I can touch it. And touching the weapon, Ida says, no! The weapon! And Clank turns off the gun and says, we win. And All Might says, the hero team wins! And Suki was nearly getting a explosion in his face with mere seconds of his hand. And Bakugo says, damn it! I nearly won! And Suki says, it ain't about me and you. It's all about teamwork. And Bakugo says, do you wanna die? And Suki says, no, please. And then they go to the evaluation on who gets the MVP on how they did. And Momo says that Bakugo was a bit reckless and obviously was focusing on Deku more on his team. Ochako led the team, or herself, to be almost outed. Clank was no better. Ida did his job well, nearly getting an MVP, but it was Zuko who took it. Zuko says, huh? Why? And Momo says this. It was your evaluation on thinking on your actions and giving your team a role in, and your willingness to fight a uneven battle with Bakugo, with having more casualties on himself to keep his distance from. But when you used your quirk, you used 5% of it to not ensure Bakugo's injuries anymore. And giving your weapon to Clank was a smart idea to pressure in Ida. And Suki says, wow, you're very close to detail, Momo. And Momo says, I'm used to studying on the person's strategies. And Suki gets closer to Momo and says, I'll take your advice. And Momo then looks out of curiosity. Why are you looking at me with a straight face? I'm sure you what? And Zuku was confused on that answer. And Clank says, yeah, I'm wondering that too. And Suki says, it's because I trust your word. You seem very reliable on your information and your details. And Momo said, why, thank you. But you also forgot one little detail. I overestimated the impact on Bakugo's explosion. And Momo then says, right, God. And Suki says, I would say Ida takes the MVP anyway. And Momo then thinks, And Suki says, don't worry, you can't always get the accuracy right. And then get into all the students who get all their battle testments, and everything is canon to what happens. But when you go back and change into their normal UA clothes, and I was looking and peeking on the girls and saying, hey guys, I found a hole that leads to the girls. And he explains to them that they are changing and yeah, all that. And Clank said, hey Suku, why is this little guy with great forehead telling us details? And Suku then sighs and says, getting his comeuppance. That's why. And Haneda then goes and looks again, and having Jiro's earphone jack stabbed into his eye. And Suki says, see? And Clank says, that makes perfect sense. And that screams out his eye, and Suki says this, I would have told you that you were dumb, but even I couldn't even explain the details to you on her end. I expect her to listen. Clank says, agreed. And Haneda says, just get me to the hospital. And Suki says, yeah. And looks at the wall and says, hey Jiro. And Jiro says, what? And says this. By the way, you look good. And Jiro then hears that what he said and says, what? And Suki says this, you were listening on one of us because of something, right? I know Mana is loud, but I highly doubt he's that loud. And Jiro then says, it's nothing. I just heard him say something in the walls. And Suki said, yeah. By the way, you look adorable. And Jiro gets another attack from Suki's kindness. And Clank says, why do you always flirt with other people? And Suki says, I'm just being nice. Can I just be nice? And Clank was getting a little, putting his hand on his head and says, never mind. And Suki goes and with Clank into the support room to fix lawn and make their weapons back to normal. And that's where I'm ending this video. I hope you liked this video and hope you subscribe. See you next time. Plus Ultra.